Facilitating positive behaviour. Number one, solid foundations. And this is all about developing those effective, solid foundations in our boarding context that will enable positive behaviours. A solid foundation for positive behaviours includes residents' culture, relationship between boarders and between boarders and staff, communication, supervision practice, and boarder engagement with activities. Effective boarding practice creates that strong current of positive student behaviour. It's like a strongly flowing river, everyone heading in the same direction, boarders and staff, and new students coming in are drawn along by this river of positive behaviour. And let me give you an example. We were at dinner at a boarding residence here in Western Australia, big boarding residence, and we were sitting with 2 Year 12s who'd been there for quite a while, and there were 2 Year 7s who'd just come in. And at the end of the meal, the Year 7s got up to leave, and the Year 12 said, no, you can't leave now. You've got to clear the table off, you've got to wipe the table down, you've got to put things away, and they explained how to do this. Now, this wasn't the supervisor, this wasn't the house parent doing this. This was 2 Year 12 students, and this is an indication of very strong practice, this strong current of practice or behaviour. And we call it a river or a current of positive student behaviour. It requires a dynamic, positive residence culture. Culture is very important. And there are keys or key factors that contribute to creating that positive culture. And this is from research by Howard, Howell and Brainard. We're going to look at those key factors. So one of those key factors is respect. Everyone in the residence is treated with respect and they see themselves as valued. There's caring. Everyone feels that others are concerned about them and interested in their well-being. High morale. Everyone feels good about what's happening and are willing to do assigned tasks and are confident, cheerful and self-disciplined. Contribute. Everyone in the residence is given the opportunity to contribute ideas and know they've been considered. Continuous growth. Everyone strives to develop their skills and knowledge, both staff and students. Boarding staff hold high expectations for students and for themselves. Cohesion. Boarding members, residence members feel a sense of belonging. Trust. Everyone has confidence that others can be counted on to do what they say they will do. Integrity is an essential characteristic. So these are the keys to having that positive boarding culture. We've come to the first exercise, and this is about rating your practice, and I hope you've downloaded this sheet and you can rate your practice here. You can see those 7 keys are down there: respect, caring, high morale, opportunity to contribute, continuous growth, cohesion and trust. And you can rate these from 1 through to 5, 1 being very poor, 5 being very good. So you can rate your own practice or your residence practice. You can make a comment and you might suggest change. A strong current of positive student behaviour requires strong, caring staff boarder relationships. Relationships are just so important. And we're going to listen to Andrew Mills for part of his TED Talk on relationships.
But here's the absolute truth. Relationships are the most powerful force on the planet. And when we actually sometimes dismiss them or discount them, what we're actually doing is this. We are actually dismissing and sidelining the most important thing in our lives. And this is actually what science is proving to us. Science is actually showing to us that what matters most, if you want to live a happy, a healthy, and a whole life, is actually having good connections and friendships around you. Did you know that if you have close relationships, you're actually less likely to have a cold? Did you know if you actually have really close friendships that you'll actually recover faster from surgery? Or this is crazy. Did you know that you're actually 2 to 5 times less likely to have a major health challenge in your life if you have close relationships? And in our epidemic of mental health concerns and challenges, what professionals are also teaching us is that we need people to journey with us long term, actual friendships that we know and who know us. A study out of Brigham Young University found this, and this is like startling, but it's absolutely true. if you have really deep and close relationships, you will live longer than other people. That not having close relationships is the equivalent to you smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So relationships are these incredible, powerful things, but we have this tendency to actually discount them, to dismiss them, or to neglect them.
It's amazing, isn't it, just how important relationships are. Positive student relationships are fundamental to our success in boarding. Students are more likely to engage, and we're likely to have fewer behavioural problems if we have these strong positive relationships. Positive relationships build motivation, and this is because you have this cycle, and positive relationships are built on positive interaction. When you have a positive interaction, the student's brain releases this feel-good dopamine, and this creates this cycle. You provide positive feedback, the student's brain releases dopamine, the student feels good and is motivated to feel that way again. So that's how that cycle works and how positive relationship builds that motivation. But this is harder for some students. For example, when a student seems to overact, and this may result from trauma or chronic stress in their life. They might feel threatened in situations that other students don't find threatening at all, they find harmless. Their brain feels that the environment is not safe and remains on alert. And this is the role of the amygdala. If something feels like a threat, the amygdala sets off an alarm that triggers a release of cortisol and adrenaline, and it sends extra energy. It just floods through the body. Muscles tense, heartbeat quicken, and the boarder prepares for fight or flight. When the threat detection system is highly activated, this does not feel safe. For some students, what this might look like is that they are avoiding engaging in work, they're putting their head down, they're yelling or making negative comments, walking out of the room, or violent, aggressive behaviour. So we may see that in some students that have had trauma or chronic stress in their lives. Positive relationships improve student behaviour, and we need to remember that students may be mirroring our behaviours, so our words and our actions really do matter. Some of the things that we can do are to know our boarders' names, know where they come from and family information, learn their interests, spend time talking with boarders. Interesting little quote here, isn't it? To the world you might just be one person, but to one person you could be the whole world. A strong current of positive student behaviours also requires effective supervision processes, and this is about observing and monitoring. When we observe and monitor students, we can provide the best level of duty of care. We can meet the needs of the students, and we can be aware and respond to signs of concern, such as a student feeling unhappy, distressed or unwell, at risk or unacceptable behaviour, students not involved with a program, students not engaging with other students or not engaging with staff, strain, anxiety, tension or poor coping skills, or just changes in attitude or behaviour. So we can look out for these signs. Some behaviours are going to require very urgent action, and that's, if there's a possibility of harm to themselves, so a boarder harming themselves, harming another student, either in a conflict situation or a bullying situation, or where they are receiving harm or abuse from another person. There are behavioural signs and body language to look out for, things like pacing, agitating, fidgeting, raised voices, tone of voice, sighing or rolling of eyes, defensive posture, a clenched fist, withdrawn or unusually quiet or distracted, or just staring in a confronting manner, or just a boarder whose behaviour has changed, is different to how they used to be. Time will give us perspective, so observing, relating with a student, interacting with a student over time enables us to gain perspective about how the student functions, their behaviour, and any presenting issues. Communication strategies. I want to talk about communication strategies as part of setting this solid foundation for positive behaviours. Firstly, we need to make sure our message is clear. So communicate what you want to communicate it clearly, in short, simple manner. ask for feedback, and check for understanding. So really just being careful and proactive about making sure that our message is clear. Speak with confidence. Make sure that we're predictable, clear, concise, and respectful. When we're predictable, when we say the same things all the time or to each similar situation, then the students know and understand, and this gives them a feeling of safety when they have that predictability. Sometimes we'll need to rehearse, particularly if a meeting or a conversation is going to be difficult. Rehearsing what you say before can make you feel more self-assured and help and keep you from losing control in those situations. We need to make sure that our language is culturally appropriate. So just be culturally aware and inclusive, and boarders, particularly boarders from other cultures, should feel valued for themselves and their culture and what they bring, what they add to the residents. This is important, I think, this using directive language. So firstly, when we're communicating with boarders, particularly around behaviour, no pleading. So instead of saying, could you please be quiet and listen? You see how that comes across as pleading? I need you to pay attention. That comes across as pleading with the student. You would say instead, settle down, thank you. A couple of boarders need to listen up, thank you, that sort of thing, instead of pleading. So try to avoid pleading. Follow up. So instead of saying, I told you to be quiet, why are you boys still talking? You could say something like, excuse me for a second, Jackie, Robbie, can we talk after I'm finished? Right now I've got things to talk about. And there are times when you're just going to have to ignore any sulking as you refocus the group when you're following up. And this is all about using directive language and making sure that our language is non-confrontational. Instead of saying, don't look at me like that, I told you to get a move on, move over there now, you've got an extra duty now. And so you see how that's confrontational. If we are dispassionate in the way that we talk to kids, if we try and keep the emotion out of our voice, try to ignore baiting and just say something like, people have finished their duties, they can be checked out now, that sort of thing. Try to remind boarders about expectations and provide them with a choice. We've got residence rules about safe and healthy standards in our rooms. You've got a choice to make. You can work to that standard now, or you can be repeating this cleanup later on. So just explaining to them the choice, that sort of thing. So remembering, no pleading statements, follow up, be non-confrontational, and remind boarders of expectations. And then we can rate our practice again, and we can have a look at this sheet and we can talk about how we would rate our own practice or residents' practice 1 to 5 as far as relationship and communication are concerned. And then we have assertive communication, and I think that it's important that as part of our maintaining positive behaviours, that we can have assertive communication ourselves. We know how to be assertive. So what is assertive communication? Assertive communication is being able to stand up for what you believe is right, ask for what you want, and say no when you don't want to, in a way that's confident, calm, and respectful. And you can see how important this is when you're directing students or when you're managing the behaviour of students. It's important that you are assertive, standing up for what you believe is right, asking for what you want, saying no to what you don't want. You're confident, calm, and respectful. Assertiveness is a skill that can be built up. Becoming more assertive takes sustained effort and commitment, and you can do things like start small in lower stakes situations. So, for example, this is a home type example, but you're sitting around working out what you're going to get in for dinner, and they're saying, we think we would like chicken, we'll get some chicken dishes in, and you might say, no, I think tonight I would like pizza. So you see what you're doing? You're standing up for what you want, saying no to what you don't want, and you're confident, calm, and respectful. Always important to be respectful. So you could start and practice this by starting in just a lower stakes situation like that pizza chicken issue, making imperfect decisions. Our decisions aren't always going to be perfect, and we need to understand that sometimes they will be imperfect. Don't apologize if you haven't done anything wrong. Get comfortable with saying no, and don't try and manage how other people feel. We shouldn't be managing how other people feel. A dynamic, positive residence culture also needs a physical environment that is clean, vibrant, and homely. So you want a nice, homely, enjoyable environment for students, and also activities that are interesting and engaging. Eric Jensen said this. He said, "We often treat the symptoms with strategies and we don't treat the causes." One of the causes, and he's talking about behaviour issues here, one of the causes is that students are not engaged and they do not feel connected with other students. And so it's important that we can make sure that students are engaged. So that means that we need interesting, engaging activities, and then students are less likely to have the time or the inclination for poor or unacceptable behaviour. And so you can carry on with rating your practice as we come to the end of this presentation. And so you can rate your practice about being assertive. Are you assertive? Are you not? Would you write 1 very poor or 5 very good or somewhere in between? Any comment you want to make about being assertive, and then any suggested change. And you can rate also your physical environment and your activities. Are they engaging? Are they interesting? Thank you very much. To finish up, here's a little video about a sheep with problem behaviours. Thank you.